Good morning. Right now I'm just sat in a car park because I was going to go have my breakfast in the park, but then I had a look at how elevated the park is and I decided I couldn't be bothered to walk up those stairs this morning, so we're making do with the car park. And today is day 3 of my cycle from Sendai to Tokyo, where I'll soon be leaving Iwaki to go to Mito, which is the capital of Ibaraki Prefecture. But now I'm going to tuck into my breakfast, which I am looking forward to because even though I checked out before the breakfast was served at the place I was staying at, they very nicely prepared me some rice balls to take with me. I don't think there's anything in the rice balls because they didn't specify anything, it just said rice balls. But nonetheless, I'm very excited to get started on these. So I'm not going to wait any longer to do so. Those rice balls did actually end up having stuff inside. One of them had a bit of sauce in, which with my baby palate I unfortunately can't identify for you, but it was still very nice. And one of them had a little bit of tuna in, which I actually enjoyed because, surprisingly enough for someone who lives in Japan, I don't really enjoy seafood that much. I know, bit of a shame really. But don't worry though, I am coming around to some seafood dishes very slowly. But I do mean very slowly. But I'll get there in the end. Today's ride though, which is just under 100 kilometers, is quite close to the coast. So we should have a flatter ride today in comparison to yesterday. But unlike the last couple days, it seems like I've completely forgot to jot down some of the interesting stuff on the route. So it seems like today's video and tomorrow's video might be a bit of a mess. I'm already a great YouTuber, me like. Maybe we can have a coffee together on the beach while I ramble needlessly about the intricacies of turning right at an intersection in Japan. Sounds like a plan to me. Does seem like we're going to get our first little glimpse at the ocean here though. I know why there's a lot of seawalls in Japan, because there is a lot of turbulent weather, to put it mildly. But I hope I don't have an interrupted view of the sea the entire time I'm on the bike. I haven't been to many beaches yet in Japan because I'm not a massive beach person, to be honest. But maybe a whole day of riding alongside the beach will maybe sway me the other way a little bit. Actually, I don't know why I need to be off the bike to explain how to do a right-hand turn at an intersection in Japan. That's why I've got the GoPro, isn't it? To get right in the thick of the action. So when the next four-way junction comes up, I'll guide you through it, because I'm sure you really want to know how it works. I'm sure everyone's interested in that. You don't want to be seeing roads like this. It's pretty boring, this, to be honest. I don't know why I've turned sound notifications off on my head unit though. It's the third bloody time today I've gone the wrong way, despite the map being right in my face. I've only really been going straight ahead so far, so the anticipation of me turning right at a set of traffic lights is building up in me as much as it is you. Don't you worry about that. It's a real shame that turning right might have to wait just a little bit longer, but it seems like we've got something more boring to look at first. And this temple is called Ganjoji Temple. Another absolutely stunning sight. I guess in addition to me saying that I'd only find spots like this on bike tours, it's starting to make me think a bit harder about cycling in Japan, just in general, taking all factors into consideration. And that's probably something I'll go a bit more in depth about when we'll have a nice coffee at the beach. I think that's a bit more interesting than turning right. I think you'll enjoy that conversation a little bit more. But there is actually a service going on, so I'll not be that loud annoying foreigner just standing outside. Let's get back on the road. Right, okay, back to what everyone wants, and that's turning right. So, in Japan obviously you drive on the left hand side of the road, but we're cycling. By the traffic laws, you technically need to always stick to the left hand side of the road. That means in the two lanes that are coming up here, I'm not allowed to merge onto the right hand lane. So what I need to do is wait in the left hand lane with the traffic here. And now as I cross into the junction, I come over and wait here for the lights on the other side to turn green. So basically I've got to cross the road twice. It's quite annoying that I'm not allowed to merge into the right hand lane just to do one turn. And a lot of the time you can get away with it if you're just on like very small streets and there's no one around. But if there's a lot of traffic, you have to stick to it because cars aren't going to expect you to do anything else. So there's a good chance of you getting clapped by cars if you're not going by the traffic laws. And I've stopped now because I'm going to have a little bit of lunch and get that fast food out of here from yesterday. We're going back to the extremely traditional dishes, something that's exported all over the world and is very popular. So I think you're going to enjoy this one today. Look, right, I thought the gag was funny the first day and I've tried to carry it on, but it's just fallen flat on its face now, isn't it? I'm sure my greedy eyes will come back to bite me with that one though. It's an interesting choice having a curry in the middle of a bike ride, but to be fair, I did think it was going to be a bit of a smaller portion than that because that was only 750 yen. And some of the cheaper curries in Tokyo that I've had for about that much, you don't get that much food. But I should have probably expected something like that, given that we're in a much smaller town and not in Tokyo. So let's see how much my average speed drops on the second half of this ride. Well, that's certainly one way to immediately start using all that carb energy I just got from that meal. Where's that lovely flat seaside I was promising myself, eh? Definitely travelled loads of distance since the last time that I talked. Definitely not using a shrine as an excuse to stop again. No, no, no. You've got to remember what I've been saying, and you've got to stop at spots like these on your bike tour. And especially after a heavy meal. And I'm surprised a lot of these spots have been empty on my ride so far. And even this town that I'm in right now is not as small as some of the other ones that I've been to. But I guess it's given me great opportunity for me to clear my own mind a bit during these rides. Because as I've said before, sometimes on long bike rides I can get a bit too bogged down and just putting my head down on a road and just going as fast as I can towards my destination. And sometimes you've just got to stop and take in the world around you, don't you?
What the dog doing?
And I also immediately forgot about a hornet that came towards me as I parked my bike, so I'm glad that didn't come back to bite me. However, it's time for a quick Lawson stop because I think we've found the spot on the beach. I did say I'm not a beach person, but being at the beach, it gives me a good amount of nostalgia because I grew up by the beach in the UK. And you know, while UK beaches aren't great, there is something to be said about having some nice fresh air by the sea. But anyway, I've got my Tully's coffee, I've got my frozen takoyaki, and I might as well continue the thought that I had before and discuss what I think about cycling in Japan in general, not just bike touring, but in general. And you hear a lot of claims about cycling here, ranging all the way up to Japan is the best country in the world to cycle in. And I really think that depends on what type of bike you have and what type of riding you're doing. So firstly, because you see them everywhere, if you've got a mamachari or a city bike in general and you're just looking to commute around, even in busy cities, it's absolutely perfect for that. Because I feel like the drivers here are quite courteous, and it seems like you can take bikes wherever you want. Or at least that's how the locals treat it anyway. Because I'm quite convinced now that I'm not going to get hurt here on the roads by a car. You know, like being careful and everything still. It's going to be from another cyclist because, man, some of them ride their bikes out here like they've got a death wish. Quick move to another spot to see if it helps my legs not get destroyed by mosquitoes. But anyway, in cities, if you're trying to plan a long road ride, it can be a real mixed bag. The actual roads themselves are paved very nicely, and the drivers are quite courteous, as I've already mentioned. But there can be a lot of stop, start with the abundance of traffic lights in the city, as well as all the stop signs, which makes the road traffic, you know, quite a bit safer in a really busy city like Tokyo. But when you're trying to ride the bike, you can't really gain any momentum and keep it, and it makes plotting a route quite hard. So if you don't have the time to bag your bike up and take an hour train outside of the city and then an hour train back, on top of like a 3-4 hour bike ride that you're going to do, you're kind of stuck really meticulously trying to plot a route out in the city. And that's where the river paths come in handy, because Tokyo has quite a few, but it also has quite a few big, wide ones, which are really good, but they're quite far from each other. So unless you're doing like 150 kilometer, 200 kilometer rides, you're not going to string all them together. Although if you're using these after work hours sometimes, they can get a bit too full with pedestrians. So even then, that can be a bit of a gamble of whether that's a good ride or not. But when you get outside of urban centres, that's when Japan really comes into its own with cycling. And as I found out on a couple of other trips, and on this trip as well, as soon as you leave the busier roads of some of the towns and cities, it just opens up a whole new world. The roads pretty much stay perfectly maintained, the scenery gets unbelievable, and you've got long roads without a lot of traffic lights slowing you down. But I already forgot what I was talking about at the beginning of this, so to conclude, Japan is one of the best places to cycle in the world, if it's outside of towns and cities, I think. And obviously city centres are nice to visit when you're travelling about, but if you're trying to plan and make rides in cities, then it can be a real mixed bag, I think. So I'll maybe not jump on the claim that Japan is the best cycling country in the world, but I do plan to find out sometime in my life what actually is, so looking forward to finding that out. But enough of me rambling on the beach for one day. I think I am going to sit like a normal person and look at the sea for a little bit, and then we'll get going again. I just realised I fell into my own trap of hyper-focusing on just going forward. So I just rode through the city centre of Itachi, didn't even film anything. I'm going to be a great YouTuber, me. I've also been wanting to add on another point about city riding and riding in general for a little bit, but I've been on a main road for quite a while, so hopefully we can get a break from this in a bit. Yeah, it seems like the route that I've made today is a lot more main road heavy, which is still good, but it's not as scenic for you guys watching the video. It does look like the fortune's about to change though. We're back by the ocean. Oh aye, decent change of pace from a main road. And I guess being back at the beach, it's the perfect time to continue my conversation about cycling in Japan. And what I do want to add on, and I don't really want to start whining too much here because I'm fine with it, and it seems like everyone on their mamacharis are fine with it, is that for a country that's meant to be one of the best for cycling in the world, the cycling infrastructure itself, basically non-existent. If you're lucky, you might get a full painted bike lane on the side of the road, which isn't really good cycle infrastructure anyway because there's nothing to protect you from the cars. But the majority of the time you'll just get small blue arrows on the side of the road, which is somehow making a painted cycle lane even worse. Now it's lucky that a lot of people just commute on the roads anyway and everyone's used to just cycling around, because if that was the sort of infrastructure in the UK, for example, it would invite absolutely nobody to cycle on the roads. Because people don't want to cycle on the roads as it is with the normal painted bike lanes, never mind making them half the size. Anyway, I'm running out of card space and I'm running out of time in the day, so I'm gonna get going again and probably stop once more before saying goodbye for the day. So let's go. I do apologise, I'm not ending the video at a temple like the last 2 days, but since storage is becoming an issue and I have no idea what's ahead of me till the end of the ride, thought I might as well do it here, because it's still absolutely beautiful. I don't really know if the GoPro's picking this up with such a wide angle. It's super nice out here. But I do feel like this video has actually been a bit of a mess in the end, and it's not going to get any better tomorrow, because it's the longest ride of the trip tomorrow, and I also don't know anything that's going to be on the route, so at least we're going to discover together. But I hope at least you got some enjoyment out of me being cringe on a bike part 3. As always, I'll put a little bit of footage of me rolling into Mito at the end of this video just to round everything off. But until tomorrow, I'll see you later.